Bore da, good morning.
Good morning.
Diolch i gyd am ymuno
Thank you to all for joining us this morning.
Nia Bowden, dwi
My name is Nia Bowden. I'm Cyngor Gwynedd Business Support Manager.
At Cyngor Gwynedd. Before we start, if you need the translation, if you go to the bottom of your screen and you click on the globe, and then if you click on English, then you'll be able to follow along in English where the speech is in Welsh. So I'll let you just do that if you need to. Felly, reswm da ni yma bore
So the
yma
reason we're here this
o
morning
ymgyrch
is
gwrando
part
ar
of
gweithredu ni,
the campaign we
sef
have,
gwrando ar beth sy gennych chi fel
listening to what
busnesau
you have to
yn
say as
ystod cyfan,
businesses,
a
what you
trio
need to
helpu o
address,
ran
and to
hynny.
try and
Un o'r
help with
pethau
that.
ddoth
And
allan
one of the
o
things that
rhanol
came out
busnes
of the
yn
business
unig
survey that
dros
we
gaea
conducted
oedd bod
during the
busnesau
winter
efo mwy o
was that
gyfrifoldeb
businesses required more
cyfrifeg.
support with
Felly,
accounting.
bore yma, mae gennym ni
So this
sesiwn
morning we
gan
have a
arwain
session being
Rhys
led
Edwards
today
o
by Rhys Edwards
EOG
from
Accountancy.
EOG Accountancy.
Felly na I pasio on syth
And I'll now
o'r
hand you
corffor
over
i Rhys
immediately
jyst i
to
ddeud cyn i ni
Rhys.
gychwyn os
Just to
ydych chi
say
wedi
before we start as well, if you have any questions,
rhowch nhw eto os da chi'n
please note them again. If you'll go to the bottom of your screen,
bottom Q&A.
there is the
Os da
Q&A
chi'n just
button.
roed eich
If you
cwestiwn
can
i
just
fewn yn
note your
fan'na,
questions
felly
in
ni mwyn
that
derbyn
box. We
cwestiynau
can
trwy
only
text.
accept the
Dych chi'n mynd
questions through
cysylltiad
text. You
arall.
can't
Felly rhowch cwestiynau
contribute
yna
verbally. So
cyfarch
please note your
cwestiynau
questions
wrth
there and we'll address the
neu
questions
am
as we
diwedd.
go along or at
Reit,
the end of the
felly
session.
drosodd i
Thank you.
Rhys.
So we'll now
Diolch yn
hand you
fawr.
over to Rhys. Thank you,
Brilliant.
Rhys.
Diolch, Nia.
Brilliant. Thank you,
Bore da
Nia.
pawb.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you for, Gwynedd, Cyngor Gwynedd, inviting us to start off with. We've got a really good jam-packed session here for you this morning. And thank you for joining as well. I know how busy everyone is in business, so I've kind of made sure that we've got loads of good little bits, and hopefully everyone will take at least one thing away with them this morning. So I'm going to do the presentation in bilingually. I will do probably more of it in English. Well, the bulk of it will be in English. But if anybody's got any questions at all in Welsh, or just drop us a message, and I will try my best to translate it into Welsh as well. Cool. So what we're looking at today, cyfrifon ddigidol, sut i wneud eich cyfrifon haws yn gallach ac efo
How to
llai
make
o
accounting
straen.
easier,
So
smarter, and
title of
less
the keynote
stressful.
is How to Making Accounting Easier, Smarter and Less Stressful. So, pwy da ni? Who are we? We are EOG Accounting. We're based here in Criccieth, North Wales. Da ni'n team o pedwar. We're a team of 4 with another couple of people helping us from time to time. Da ni'n digidol, cyfrifon digidol. We're completely a digital accountancy firm. Since we started the practice, since I started the practice in 9 years ago now, we started using Xero bookkeeping software as a paperless firm, and we followed that right through. One thing to note, we're also business owners. So, obviously I've started the business from scratch. I'm also involved in other businesses. So I know the pain that you guys are going through, and we know the sort of struggles, the lack of time that you have, the balance in so many different things. So I've been there. Well, I'm still there. So just be aware of that, I suppose. So perchnogion business. Da ni'n perchnogion business hefyd. We're also Xero finalists. So Xero is quite a big deal for us. We were finalists in the nationwide awards ceremony, and we got to go down to London. Hopefully we're going to win it this year, so we've just put our application in this year, and we're certified chartered accountants as well. So the agenda for today, bydden ni mynd trwy heddiw yma.
What we'll go through today, we've got a lot to go through, so we've only got an hour, so I'll have to move quite quickly through everything today.
We've got a lot to cover today. We're going to try and move through things quickly, but also we've got a bit of a poll, so we're going to try and see I appreciate that we've probably got a few different people on this call at different stages within their business, and some are going to want us to concentrate on certain areas more than others. So we've got a poll. We'll put that up shortly, but hopefully that will kind of direct us where we need to show us where we need to put our energies into. But we're going to look at what finance and accounting is, common pain points, why digitizing your finances can be a game changer, the importance of accurate data and data flow, and I think that's a big one for us to go through today. Digital storage and security. What if technology feels overwhelming? That's a big one, and I know a lot of our customers feel that. Choosing the right tools, apps, app limitations as well, because a lot of these pieces of software sell themselves as it's a click of a button, and sometimes it's not. But do hang around, because we do this last section, the top tips and taking action. You're going to get some key pointers there, and I'm sure everyone will take something away from if you hang around until then. So bear with us. So, cyn mynd yn bellach, so I suppose the main thing is, what do we mean by finances and accounting? Beth yw cyllid a gwaith cyfrifeg? Two reasons why we do this in business. Compliance, meeting your obligations, your HMRC obligations, making sure your records are accurate, your VAT returns and your tax returns are all filed on time and you're not getting any penalties. But also, one thing we're big with in EOG is performance. Just cutting back on that, one thing I didn't mention on who we are. We're accountants that specialise in hospitality as well. So we deal with performance for hospitality businesses, but we do also have all sorts of other businesses on our books. So we are aware of all different types of businesses. And performance is big for us, because these tools that we've now been given, the cloud accounting tools that we're going to go through now, have really opened up what we as accountants can offer our customers. Because we can gather information so much quicker and we can get things so streamlined, we can then be more of advisors than just doing your accounting and bookkeeping records at the year end. So performance is massive. Business, to be in business today, you need to be competitive. You've got to be sort of on it with your numbers, and that's what these tools can offer us. Good accounting equals less stress, more clarity, and stronger businesses. I think that's key. So, it's already popped up on I've got a little poll coming up. Pwyntiau poenus cyffredin. Common pain points. So different sized businesses will have different pains. Your one-man band, someone who's just maybe starting up a business, or could be a barber or a hairdresser, you're going to, I'm guessing, feeling quite a few of these pains. You're going to be lots of lost receipts, expenses, confusion on what you can and can't claim. A VAT panic. Am I going to be registering for VAT at the right time? How do I even do that? You've got deadline stress. And also price sensitive. You're only just starting off. You haven't got a huge amount of money to invest in accounting tools, accountants. We get it. Wearing all the hats. So the next step up, I suppose, you start maybe growing a small team. You're still having a few issues there. Maybe VAT headaches there. Maybe you've registered for VAT and haven't got a system in place to make sure that you're claiming all the VAT back, that sort of stuff. And also, because you've got no system in place, you don't really know how much money you're making. You're starting to pay staff. You don't know. You're relying on your bank account as an indication of whether you're making profit or not, which is a starting point, but isn't amazing. And then you start growing. You could have disconnected systems, slow reporting. We see that a lot. when I talk about performance or analysing your performance, the one thing that was holding businesses back on that was that it was taking them too much time, or it was too much effort to get performance reports. I remember when I first started in accounting, if someone asked for a set of management accounts, wow, that was a massive upheaval. It was a big cost for the business as well. And that's why generally they couldn't afford. It was only the larger businesses that could afford for this regular sort of performance reporting, whereas now it's much more available to smaller businesses, which is amazing. And then some of these large businesses, I don't think we're going to have too many. No, we haven't got too many businesses in that sort of category here, so I won't touch on that too much. So brilliant. We've got some polls. So I think the bulk of the people on the call today are in these two bands here, so we'll concentrate there. Next, why digitizing your finances can be a game changer. Pam gall, that's a difficult word to say. Digitaleiddio eich cyllid newid y game. Well, it can be easier. It can be, have I cut past a slide here? No, I haven't. It can be easier. You can get real-time bank feeds, so real-time information streaming in. That's saving you a lot of time. Believe it or not, when I first started in accounting, which isn't that too long ago, we were analysing a bank account on a piece of paper. We were analysing it that way. And then it went to Excel spreadsheets. And then the bookkeeping software that we've chosen to specialise in, Xero, sort of changed the whole game, and they did real-time bank feeds. They were getting the information from the banks and streaming it directly into their system. And I was like, oh, as soon as that happened, it kind of got me, and I know a lot in the industry, really excited, because we can really start making a difference and helping businesses now. The other thing, mobile access anywhere. I remember when I first started in business and we first started the business. After a couple of years, I thought I was going to take a trip away. We went away to California with the family, which was amazing, and we were still able to work there. You can work anywhere with cloud accounting and sort of digital access. It's smarter. You can get live financial performance reviews. You can really track what matters as well, because these tools are so adaptable. You can adapt them for your specific business, and also you can have custom dashboards. They can be less stressful. Some people, when they first start, might find them more stressful because a lot of these software providers might sort of advertise them as really easy, and they are easy, but you just do need a little bit of know-how around it. So tax time can be made much simpler. You can get paid faster. That's a big one. We'll touch on how you can do that. And you can have peace of mind because you've got sort of clarity, a vision over everything that's happening in your business. However, so they're the good points, but something to note. My data cywir, the importance of accurate data and data flow. Essentially, I'm sure you've heard it before, rubbish in, rubbish out. If you're putting rubbish information into these tools, you're only going to get rubbish out. And we see it quite a lot when businesses or business owners have got no background in bookkeeping and they start using some of these tools. That's when they can start feeling overwhelmed because maybe they're getting a pile of rubbish out. They know it's not quite right. So a lot of these tools advertise themselves as sort of plug and play, as in get your bank stream feed and then you're away. It is, but we just need to be cautious of that. Also, the flow of information is important, not just the storage. So where is the information coming from? Is it so if you're getting information from your tills, if you've got a shop, is it flowing into your bookkeeping software correctly? And also, who's using this? Who's using your bookkeeping software. You know, if someone's entering rubbish into your tills in the first place, then you're going to get rubbish out. So you need to train your team as well. A lot of people also can get scared around. I know definitely when it first started, you know, people were worried about online banking and that side of things. Well, with regards to the tools that we use, Xero, there are other ones. QuickBooks, I'll come on to that in a minute. A lot of them are just pulling your bank statements. You haven't got direct access to the bank account there, but they also do have what we call two-step authentication. So it's like a second layer of security to that financial information, and they do have bank level encryption and lots of cloud backup. So if anything, some of the sort of the storage of the information, they've always got what we call an audit trail. So if you do any movements within that piece of software, you can normally go back and see who did what and what's happened exactly. So they are very secure. What if technology feels overwhelming? So a couple of pointers I wanted to make here. Sorry, beth os yw'ch technoleg yn teimlo'n ormod. Da ni efo
What if technology feels overwhelming? We have customers who feel, you know, they feel that technology is overwhelming sometimes.
We do have customers ourselves that literally struggle to log into online banking. 2 pointers, I would say. It's never too late to learn. I know there's lots of resources out there. I think Cyngor Gwynedd, we did check, did have maybe a few little bits. Business Wales definitely do. If you're in a trade, generally governing bodies are quite good at providing sort of upskilling webinars and that sort of stuff. And also the software providers themselves, Xero, I know QuickBooks will be the same, do have some great resources there. But if you definitely think it's way too much and you know, it really does scare you, which I know it does for a lot of people, ask for help. You don't need to know it all. So some of our customers who really struggle, they are still using some of this technology. They might just be taking pictures of receipts and invoices. So they're still sort of gaining a lot of value from these pieces of software, as in it's saving them time. But alongside us, who know the systems inside out, as a team, you know, we're kind of using everything that's available, and that customer doesn't really need to know Xero inside out. You could find a friend or a colleague to help you navigate these systems. One thing I would say is to take IT advice and not tax advice from unqualified persons. That's a big thing. It's a sort of in-house joke in accountancy that Dave down the pub has told someone that you can claim such and such. So take help with maybe IT advice, but not the tax side of things. And also always be careful with who you're sharing your financial information with. We have seen that in the past where someone really struggles with IT, and then they've unfortunately brought somebody in that they think is going to help them, and you know, have taken advantage. So you do need to be careful with who you're asking for help there. But if it is too much, there's always a way around of sort of fostering this and getting the benefits of these tools in one way or another. So, dewis yr offer cywir, choosing the right tools, app limitations, and when to ask for help. I think we put this slide in because it's really important to know when you need help as a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner or a flying solo business owner, because there's so many tools out there, and we appreciate everyone has only got so many resources, so much money to spend on accounting and software. So it's important that you kind of choose the right piece of software and also get help when you need help. The first stage I've looked at, and I suppose this just like our previous slide, we were looking at solo, small, medium, large. This also kind of runs with that. So the current one thing I want to touch on is there are a lot of banking apps that people are using now to start for performance and also for sort of tax compliance. They can be great. They're definitely cost is low. But I would say that they're generally now we've put in here current banking apps because they're always evolving and changing and getting better and better. But from our experience up till now, they only seem sort of feasible or good to be for smaller sort of one-man bands to use. Really, the sorts of businesses that they might work for are maybe hairdressers that are by themselves, or and only take card. The other issue that we've got to start thinking about is that what we're talking about here is digital accountancy. So any cash, how is that getting dealt with? So we need to be considering that, because if you're taking £100 in sales and then going out shopping and then realise you've got £50 cash in your hand and then putting that into the bank, well, the bank is only seeing the £50. They're not seeing the full £100 sales that you've actually made. So there are limitations to these pieces of software, especially the banking only. So we've given it, great for smaller businesses. Ease of use 10, they are really easy, and that's slightly their downfall. They're almost too easy to use because you think it's captured everything and everything's fine, and I can just go off the output in the end. So if there's one thing that I take away from this is remember that these tools are great, but also second question the output. That's, does this make sense? Integrations, we'll come on to integrations in a minute, but generally they're quite poor. The accuracy, I put low, depending. They can be really accurate, but it depends how they're being used. Tax compliant, some. I just noticed, I can't remember, I don't want to quote incorrectly, but I think it was either HSBC or NatWest that started offering an app, and which is great to give sort of small businesses feedback, but you can't actually submit any VAT returns or tax returns through them. Information for decision making, poor average. The next step we're looking at here is cloud bookkeeping apps, which we'll come on to in a minute, a bit more depth. So they're the likes of Xero, QuickBooks, Sage. And this one we're looking at you just doing them internally by yourself or having a friend help. Ease of use will be 8. They do have great integrations. Accuracy, I suppose that just depends on your experience really within bookkeeping. They will be tax compliant. You'll be able to submit VAT returns through them. And one thing I've noted here, I haven't got too much time to go into in depth, but there's what we call MTD, VAT and tax. Well, MTD VAT, that's a HMRC scheme of making tax digital for VAT, is live now, and it's been live for a number of years. And that's how we submit VAT returns to HMRC digitally. And coming in very shortly is MTD tax. And so when you're deciding on choosing a system, I would consider that it needs to sort of meet the requirement, HMRC requirements, so that you can submit your forms correctly and digitally. Information for decision making. Well, for a small, medium-sized business, average, and obviously it depends on how good information you're inputting, rubbish in, rubbish out. The next stage, I think those who answered small, I think this is where you need to be considering is maybe doing your own bookkeeping if you're quite comfortable with that, and then having an advisor, having external support. The one thing that the accuracy, at least once a year or however often you've agreed with your expert support to touch base with, at least at that point they can go in and tweak and amend the information that you've put into these systems. Just on that, one thing that I would say here as well is when you're finding external expert support, I would make sure that you're finding somebody that knows the tool that you've decided to use well. There's a larger firm will probably have, or a larger accountancy practice, or bookkeepers, or a larger accountancy practice will have probably an expert in Xero, an expert in Sage, an expert in QuickBooks, which is great. And you need to make sure that they've got somebody there that knows your tool well. Because if they don't, they're not going to be able to fix your problems quickly. They're not going to be able to guide you through integrations and all those sorts of things. So choose an advisor that knows your software well. And then this last stage, it is for, I suppose it is for all, but more for larger, large, does that make sense? Large, small businesses, sort of, as they're creeping into medium and larger businesses. And this is where we sit as an accountancy practice. We do the bookkeeping for our customers. And the reason we do that is that we know that the information is 100% correct all the time. And we can give our customers feedback on their performance because everything's going to be accurate and live as well. So obviously there's a cost to that. But for businesses that want to grow, I think it's great having an accountant, bookkeeping an accountant in the same place, but you could have an internal bookkeeper, the same sort of thing. Okay, so the digital toolkit. So as I say, we've touched on banking apps, and that is one form of digital toolkit. But what we're looking at here is sort of more mainstream bookkeeping, cloud accounting, bookkeeping software. I tell you what, I'm just going to jump back, actually. Sorry, be a pain. I'm just going to jump back here because I know I've touched on the limitations of these tools. And I just want to kind of maybe highlight something here with sort of how much expertise you have around bookkeeping and the limitations of tools. I'll maybe give an example actually as well. We had, I remember going to a potential customer and speaking to them, and they'd been using Xero bookkeeping. And I was asking them, are you VAT registered? And they said, no, we're not VAT registered. We don't plan on going VAT registered. But we've got Xero and we've been using it ourselves. And when we're talking about app limitations, just sort of something to consider here is because they didn't have too much knowledge around bookkeeping itself, what they'd done was they used a book. It was a small B&B, and they were using a booking agent. So the booking agents would take commission off their sales, so that the booking agents advertise for them online, and they might advertise for a room for £100, and then they actually received £80. So what this customer had done was they'd seen the £80 come into their bank account, and they'd marked it as sales, and then they'd done that continuously. Well, in matter of fact, their sales was £100, and it was £20 commission, or whatever it might, however you want to call it. But because they didn't have the know-how or sort of the bookkeeping experience, they'd actually breached the VAT threshold. But the app itself just makes it so easy, because once you enter that information once, normally it will remember that, and you just keep clicking OK. So there are limitations to these pieces of software, and you need a bit of know-how behind it. Sorry. Okay. Recommended apps and systems. So as I say, we are Xero bookkeeping or cloud accounting accountants. And that's all we use. And so we know this system inside out. But there are lots of other pieces of software out there. You've got Sage, QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Zoho Books. And they will all have different packages as well. So to complicate it even further, they'll have a starter version, a growing, I think Xero now have a growing, then they'll have a larger version, and obviously prices will start right at the bottom, around £10, and they'll go right up to £50, £60 per month. So that's £10 per month up to £60 per month. The banking apps that we talked about previously, some of them are free, and yeah, that could be a good starting point. The next thing I wanted to look at was integrations. So a lot of these tools will integrate with other apps and add-on apps. And the beauty of that is that the information or the data flows between the two apps. So this is what we used to have as what we call an app stack. So a lot of our customers used to use, well, I think we've updated this a little bit now, so it's changed quite a bit, but use these different apps, and I'll come on to that in a minute as well. Also, the tools as well have, I know it's quite a topical thing, AI. They'll have AI built in, so they will learn from what the information that you've entered into there. And actually, this external add-on, we've actually started working with other AI tools that will actually jump into these pieces of software and help us speed things up as well. Before I go any further, I think I'm just going to jump in quickly to Xero just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, because I know I've done a lot of talking, but haven't really demonstrated Xero and what we're talking about, compliance and also performance. So this is Xero, an Xero demo company. Hopefully, Nia, can you nod if you can see my screen as it changed? Yeah, all good. Cool. So this is Xero demo company, and this is the dashboard as you log in. And what we're talking about, bookkeeping and accounting, is taking all this pieces of information and making sense of it basically into your performance. So profit and loss reports, which look like this. I'll come into that in a bit more detail later on. Also, just basically checking out who owes you money, who you owe money to on an ongoing basis, and how do we do that quickly? You know, previously it might have all been done on paper. So you might have written out an invoice. If you were a joiner, say, you give them a copy, you keep a copy, then you wait for it to come and hit your bank, and then you're checking your bank, or they send you a check. It can all be done through this system here now. Here we've got the bank account, and as I said, the information, the bank statements are streaming straight into here. I think I've got this set up. This is how it looks within here. So this is basically your bank statement. And what you're doing, and what we're doing for bookkeeping, for compliance and for performance, is making sense of who's paid you, who you've paid, who you still owe money to, and also what you own, and what you owe. And that's the bulk of it is done in Xero through here. QuickBooks and Sage will be quite similar, but within here, there's a lot of AI built in and things to help speed up the process. So this is, generally just Xero. I will come back on to profit and loss reports shortly. I'd like to ask a question. I don't know whether I can do that now, but is everyone following me? Am I moving too fast? I suppose that's my big question, because I've done a lot of talking and obviously I know a lot about this. I'm just wondering in the chat if anybody, let me see, have we got a chat?
There's no questions coming so far.
They're not, everyone's not sleeping, are they?
I don't think everyone's, well, they might be. No, it's great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to give a few real life examples here of how using these tools have benefited some of our customers. The first one was a window cleaner, and this particular window cleaner struggles to keep hold of receipts and invoices. As you can imagine, they're in and out of the car. There's lots going on. Before they started using Xero, they struggled to know who owed them money. They also were bouncing in and around the VAT threshold and didn't have a system. Can you imagine if you've got lots of receipts and invoices and then HMRC make it quite difficult because you've got to check your turnover on a rolling 12 monthly basis. So luckily, we'd introduced Xero to them, and they can send invoices through Xero, and then let me just quickly show you that. So they can easily send invoices, email directly through Xero, and then they can also track their sales on an ongoing basis. So we taught them this little trick in Xero where we compare a monthly. We've actually got a blog on this. We compare the monthly sales, and we compare it with 11 periods and put a total in there, so they can constantly see when they breached the VAT threshold. So we can see they've got all their sales looking back, and we've got a total, and they could see they'd gone over the VAT threshold, and they registered at the right time. Without having a system like this in place, they weren't able to do that. Also, then once they'd registered for VAT, we managed to give them HubDoc. HubDoc is a tool to capture receipts and invoices. It pushes then through into Xero. There are other pieces of software. It used to be called Receipt Bank. It's now Dext. I think QuickBooks have a tool built into their system. And the beauty of that, once you've registered for VAT, you can then claim that back on some of your expenses. He now takes a picture of his VAT receipts as and when he goes, and it streams into his bookkeeping software, and he claims all the VAT back. If he didn't have that system in place, I very much doubt he was going to be able to claim all of that back that he possibly could. The next example I wanted to give was a nursery, and this massively changed and helped this customer. This customer, when we first started working with them, they were sending out, I think it was Word document invoices, and it was holding them back because, as you can imagine, a growing nursery, tracking who owes you. Oh, someone's come in and paid you cash. Someone's paying via tax credits or the tax vouchers or however it might be. Someone's done a bank transfer. We switched them over to Xero, but also what we did was we added on Go Cardless, and Go Cardless is there's lots of different ones. This is just our sort of app stack. Go Cardless will the first time you send out the invoice, it will ask your customer to sign up to your direct debit, and then when you send the invoice, it actually collects the exact amount on that invoice. So I think this customer particularly had gone from spending something like 2 or 3 days doing invoicing at the end of the month to doing it within half a day. And also, once they've paid via direct debit, it automatically marks those invoices as paid. So you know those customers have been paid instantly. So before she had to send out invoices, then she had to keep an eye on her bank account, see who's the cash that's come in. Yes, they've paid, they've not paid, they've paid half of it. By putting this system in place, she knows she's getting bang on to the penny the amount, and she knows who owes who, sometimes a direct debit might bounce or whatever it might be, but she knows exactly, she's got a system in place. So that was a big game changer for the nursery. The last one, I need to speed up a little bit. The last one, hotels. We recently worked with a customer who was a decent sized hotel and had Xero in place, but didn't have bank feeds streaming through. And that, because they weren't utilizing the bank feeds, they couldn't. This was a big business and they needed performance feedback quickly. But because they were manually entering data, they'd had Xero, they'd taken the first steps, but they weren't utilizing all these tools. They couldn't, it was taking them too long to sort of get a set of accounts or reports, management accounts in place. So by the time they'd done that 3 or 4 months later, it was too late, and they were leaking money. So by utilizing all these tools, we can speed things up and give feedback to businesses much quicker. Cool. So making sense of the numbers, we'll have a quick look now for profit and loss reports. I think I probably have skipped past a couple of things where we do have blogs. I'll jump on those in the end, but profit and loss reports, these are your basic accounting reports, these 2 reports and balance sheets. I'll touch on KPIs and dashboards and forecasting and budgeting. I need to speed up a little bit here. So, gone a step too far. Let's have a look in Xero, these profit and loss reports. When we look at these, so obviously we're doing them for accounts, we're doing them for HMRC. We need to, and I think a lot of business owners, when they first start or don't really know, and maybe sort of the older way of looking at things was that people were just doing these reports for HMRC. That's all it was for. And we're massive advocates here of understanding your profit and loss reports and balance sheet reports. And I think that the best analogy, the best way I can explain this is, if you're wanting to, why do we start a business? We all start a business because we want a great life. We want to give our kids a great life, great experiences. We maybe want a little bit more freedom. We want all these things out of our business. But a lot of times we can just feel overwhelmed and stressed. And you think, oh, should I just get a job? This is all too much for me. If you can get to understand these reports, it can really help you plan and move your business in the right direction to get the lifestyle that you actually want from your business. The best sort of analysis I can give is, if you're wanting to lose weight, and this is why Weight Watchers do so well, and all those sorts of other weight watching sort of people, what do they ask you to do? They ask you to come in regularly and step on the scales and see how you're doing. They don't ask you to come in, weigh in, and then in a year's time, how about you come back in a year's time and we'll see, you planned on losing 3 or 4 stone. So we'll come back in a year's time and see if you've lost that 3 or 4 stone. If you want to lose that 3 or 4 stone, they ask you come in every week, check, am I getting close to, yes, I've lost a pound. I come back in the following week, oh, I've put a couple of pounds back on. What did I do wrong? It's exactly the same with your business. You need to be looking at your performance, i.e. your profit and loss and your KPIs regularly. And these systems allow you to do that, which you couldn't do previously unless you were like a qualified accountant or you had a lot of deep pockets and you could pay an accountant. So yeah, check these reports. So for performance, we want to be looking at our profit and loss. And this is a basic profit and loss in Xero, and it will show your monthly, or however you want it, your monthly bookkeeping, sorry, your monthly profits, your monthly sales, cost of sales, and overhead costs. I think Andrew is going to, if he can, drop in the blog. We've got a YouTube video, just I think it's around 25 minutes, half an hour, explaining understanding basic profit and loss reports. So through doing your bookkeeping, through using these systems on an ongoing basis, it will allow you to see how you're doing regularly. So step on those scales regularly and see how you're doing. Also be mindful that there are limitations and you might need help to make sure that these figures are correct. So that's your profit and loss. This is the other key report within a set of accounts, and this essentially shows you what you own and what you owe. So it's a snapshot of your business at any particular time. I think this one is a demo company, and it's showing a snapshot of this business at 31st of March 25. If it loads up, there we go. Cool. So this shows what equipment they own, how much they've got in their bank, how much they owe customers, how much they're owed by customers, and how much they've taken out the business. If you're using these tools quickly, efficiently, then you can easily jump in here and look at the performance of your business. Another thing that we're big advocates of is KPIs and budgets. So, actually, I think I've done it on this one. How about, yeah. So KPIs sounds scary business jargon, doesn't it? It's key performance indicators. And this will be specific to each business. I don't know exactly what you're doing, but I know there's a few small businesses that have ticked that they're on the call today. For example, a KPI for, say, a nursery, a day nursery, would be what is the level of wages compared to your turnover. So as your business grows, you don't want to be overstaffing and have too many staff in. So you could track the level of wages to turnover. And through Xero, you can easily edit the layout so you can see these percentages. I've just quickly done this before jumping on the call. I edited the layout and I said, show me the percentage of each one of these items compared to my turnover. I don't think there actually is wages here, but if there was wages in here, we could see what the percentage was to turnover, and we could see how it's changing over the time. Am I overstaffing? Am I well, you probably aren't understaffing, but are you paying too much out in wages? You can easily go and do that, and it's easy to click edit and manipulate these reports to whichever way you want. There's loads of ways of doing that there. Another thing we're big advocates of, and I know it's difficult because you're small businesses, and I know there's only so many hours in the day, but definitely when you're first starting, is doing a budget. Doing a budget allows you to two things. Is this business feasible? Can I get out of this business what I want out of this business? But also it gives you that sort of like guiding light. In our business here, we have a budget and we share it with the whole team and say, this is what we want to achieve this year. And then we're laser focused on getting that out of our business. You can create a budget. What do I want my sales to be? What are my overhead costs? So what are the things that I'm going to have to pay anyway, my rent and that sort of stuff. And then you can have a look at what we call variable costs. So I don't know, if you're a cafe or bar, what's your food and drink costs and what sort of margins do you want on those? So create a budget, and there's loads of guidance out there. That's the beauty of it. The sort of age we're living in now, YouTube and all that, you can get loads of information out of that. And then the next stage is comparing. This report will easily do it in Xero. Compare your actual performance to your budget. So, okay, this is what I plan to do. This is how I've actually done. And what's the comparative? And why did I not achieve that? We also, when we're setting budgets in EOG, is we try and set sort of stretch goals or stretch budgets. So they slightly out of reach, but can we get there? So can we perform slightly better? So yeah, that is performance analysis. Also, you'll need those figures accurate and correct for compliance and tax. So for VAT and tax, you can easily submit those through Xero, your VAT returns and your tax returns. Annual tax planning. That's another thing that we can now do, that we've got this information on an ongoing basis. As a service that we offer in EOG, is that we meet up with our customers, well, not all the customers that are taking out the service, 2 or 3 months before the year end, to see what their profits are, to see what their potential tax liability is going to be, and to see how you can affect it. The old school way of just dropping your sort of books in to the accountants after the year end, well, that's been and gone. You can't do any. We used to have people say, "Why haven't you told me how to save tax?" Well, I didn't know how you've done until 6 months after the year end, and that, there's nothing much I can do about it. But nowadays, because we're doing this on an ongoing basis, we can see if you keep your numbers up to date, you can see what it looks like your profit's going to be. You can estimate the next 2 months, and then let's see, do we have any extra funds? Could we buy equipment? Do we need to do repairs? Should we be putting money into a pension? We do that service in-house here, but I actually did a social media video explaining on how maybe you could do that yourselves at home. Cool. Now the bits everyone's been waiting for, really, which is the top tips and taking action. So a lot to run through, and I know we're pushing on for time, but our top tips for accuracy. So go digital with receipts. Use a system such as HubDoc. That's got what we call OCR built in, and that will extract some of this information from the receipts automatically. And they're also stored digitally. Reconcile, so that is sort of go into your bookkeeping software and match up regularly. That's really important to stay on top of things. It's very difficult if you're looking 6 months past. What was that for? I can't even remember. You've got a receipt. So if you're doing it regularly, it also, there's so many other benefits to that. Standardized categories. So when I say standardized categories, what I'm talking about there is in like your profit and loss, have a standardized category so there's not a massive mess. So every time I go to Tesco and buy food, that food falls under food and drinks or whatever it might be if you're a cafe. Account for sales accurately. I touched on that previously. Is your sale the £80 that's hitting the bank, or is it actually the £100? That's massive. Question the technology as well. It's so easy just to press OK on these buttons and think everything's worked. Try and think what's happened once I pressed OK. Is what I expected to happen actually happened? These systems have got AI built in, and sometimes if you do a mistake once, it thinks that's what you want to do every single time, so it will continually do that. Account for cash. A lot of these systems aren't great for cash. You might have spent a pile of money on things for the business in cash, but how is that getting into the system? I mean, there's lots of ways to do it, but if you're just streaming your bank, then it's not being accounted for. Systemize. This is massive as well. So in EOG, in our business here, we have our bookkeeping job when we come to do someone's bookkeeping is a 100-step process. If you just need to have your little steps, that every time you come and do the bookkeeping, I do this, I do this, and I do this. I know I'm running out of time, but I thought I'd just quickly share this. One thing you can do as well in the bookkeeping, just to speed things up, for example, you can set in Xero, I'm sure it's the same in a lot of the other systems, you can set up rules, create rules. And when I talk about systemize, one of the steps we have in our bookkeeping is, can we create more bank rules so it makes it quicker and faster? A rule is, let me just quickly, I won't dwell on it too much, but a rule is every time you see this payment to this, categorize it to this. So then you're just standardizing and it's making it quicker. And next time you come in to do your bank reconciliation or do your bookkeeping, it will just say, do you want to use this rule? Yes. So get a system in place so you're doing your bookkeeping accurately, and also make sure you have a step within that system. Can I speed this up? Can we categorize these? Can we start using bank rules or whatever it might be? Right, I'm pushing for time. Get the bank feed streaming. That's massive. Most of these systems will have that. Use a business bank account. If you've got a private bank account and you're using it for your business as well, you're just making so much more work for yourself. You know, you're having to sort through all your private stuff as well as your business stuff. Try and keep everything to one business. It doesn't necessarily have to be a business bank account as such, but it's just a bank account specifically used for your business. Automate regular tasks. I touched on that previously. In Xero, you can have repeating invoices as well. So you could create, if you have to send the same invoice to somebody every month, you can have repeating invoices in there. So it just automatically goes out. Use payment services. So when you send that invoice, use the likes of Go Cardless or Stripe so that people can easily click pay now and get paid quickly. And also it will automatically update your bookkeeping system to let them know that you've been paid. You can also set auto payment chasers. So say you've sent an invoice and they haven't paid you. You can say after 2 weeks when it's overdue, send this in this email and it will automatically be sent out to your customers. Integrate apps where feasible. A lot of people just on this, a lot of people seem to think, oh, this integrates with my bookkeeping software, I'll add it on. Be mindful that, for example, the tills, if you've got a till and integrating with Xero, if the tills aren't being used right, sometimes it could be more hassle than it's worth to get them linked because the till could be pushing rubbish information through. So larger businesses, integrations work really well, but just be mindful that they're not always right for everybody. Compliance, use a recognized cloud-based tool, MTD ready. You don't want to be using your bank maybe and doing everything through there, then realizing, oh, I need to submit a VAT return and now I need to get the information out there and put it into another system. Make sure you're uploading correct records. For example, if you're doing for VAT, you want a VAT receipt, a VAT invoice, not just the little chitties that they print out from when, say you've gone to the garage and they just out the credit card receipt. Use an advisor when unsure. Always, you know, ask somebody if you're not sure of what you can claim or can't claim. Ask somebody that knows, not Dave down the pub. Performance. Create a budget. Massive. Do that. I know. You know, to be honest, I did our budget for this year last week, and it's one of those where you're like, oh man, I could just so many of the things I could be doing now. But it's brilliant. It just gives you that guiding light of, you know, what we're trying to achieve here. And when you're doing that budget, think about what would I want this business to look like in 10 years? Then what do I want it, or 5 years? Then I want it to look like in 3 years. And then, well, okay, by the end of this year, can I get to here? Yeah, can we get here? And then, you know, it's stepping stones, and use it as a guiding light to take your business to where you want it to be. Understand and track your key KPIs. Google, I run a hair salon. What KPIs should I be tracking? And you'll be able to do it within the system. Use dashboards. I haven't touched on that too much, but you can. The systems do have, so you can see your clear numbers. The main ones, because sometimes it can be overwhelming, a profit and loss. You can just have what was my turnover constantly, and you can easily see that. Compare your budget to your actual performance regularly, and use a specialist. As you're growing, you know, I would start using an advisor that knows your industry well. For tax, systemized receipts uploads. Make sure you're taking pictures of everything quickly, and it's all getting into the system. Use a business bank account. We touched on that, so you're not having to sift through personal stuff. Have a separate bank account for different taxes. This is a great tip for. Say you've registered for VAT and you've only got one business bank account. Well, you're going to have to pay your VAT every quarter. Well, sometimes you know you're going to get a massive VAT bill. Well, if you get a separate bank account and transfer that money into that VAT account, you know when your VAT bill comes liable, it can you've got the money and it can get paid. If it's just in one big lump, you think, oh, I've got 100 grand here, I'm going to go shopping and we'll crack on. Have a separate business bank account. Plan ahead. So before your year end, stop, use these systems and think, where am I at? How much profits have I got? Do I need to spend, or what can I do? Or no, it's great, but just know that maybe you've made a lot of profits and your tax is going to be high. You know, you're in control. Next, consider what you're paying. So take action, basically. Hopefully on the back of this, I'm hoping some people still here. Are there some people still here now? Yeah, all good. On the back of this, don't take action. You know, that's the main thing. I'd go back through and think, okay, well, what are my main pain points? Let's just have a quick look. You know, where do I sit on this scale, and what systems am I going to get in place to overcome them? 1 minute past 10, not bad. Yeah, and that's it. We've done a little checklist with a lot of those, well, with all the tips and tricks in, so that you can work your way through them and hopefully take something out of today's session. Diolch fawr iawn, pawb.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rhys. That was very thorough. And it raised a lot of things that I hadn't thought of, so I hope that those listening has received the same experience. If it's okay with you, Rhys, we'll circulate the slides to the people who have been listening this morning. And we've also been recording the session, and we'll be uploading that on our YouTube channel. And we'll be promoting the fact that it's there in the business bulletin, which is issued twice a week, as you know already, I'm sure. I don't think that there are any questions. Any Q&As, just that somebody has reiterated what you said about X0, that it's very effective for them as well as a business. But no questions, so I'm sure that you've been very clear then in what you said there. Rhys, if there is anything after the session, or if somebody thinks about something that they should have asked, maybe, I'm sure we can contact you, Rhys. Yes, of course, my email address is up there, so please make a note of that. Also, if you can scan our website here. And we post tips and tricks on the socials as well.
Follow us on socials.
Follow us there. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much to you all for joining us this morning. Usually, if you've got anything else that you'd like us to put some sort of a webinar on about, well, please get in touch with us and we will try our best to try and do that for you. Thank you to everybody this morning, and we'll see you in the next session. Bye, everybody.